man murdered on his front porch days before Christmas. The government fails to bring referendum bills to Parliament this year. Plus, the prodigal sons prepare to take Bay Street by storm.
But we coming. We ain't coming for nothing else other than one.
The details of those stories and so much more on the way. I'm Vonnie Toot, and NB12 Weekend starts now. Topping news tonight, a man was shot and killed while standing on his front porch in Elizabeth Estates last night, pushing this year's murder count to 108. Police say the victim was standing outside his home on Malaysia Way and St. Vincent Avenue shortly before 11:50 p.m. when a gunman shot him several times before fleeing the scene on a motorcycle. Shocked neighbors looked on as homicide detectives conducted preliminary investigations. Police say they have no motive at this point. It's the 7th murder reported this month. 111 people were murdered in the Bahamas last year. 127 murders were committed in 2011. Police are also investigating 5 separate armed robberies. All of the targets are women. The most recent incident was reported shortly before midnight when a gunman stole an undetermined amount of money from a woman on Awaki before fleeing on foot. Just 2 hours before that, 2 gunmen robbed 2 women of cash, a handbag, and 2 cell phones on Jerome Avenue. Minutes later, a masked gunman wearing short green pants robbed the woman shortly after she arrived at her Carmichael Road home. Additionally, police say 3 men robbed a woman in broad daylight while she was sitting in a car on Christie Avenue, Stapleton Gardens, while another became a victim of armed robbery outside her home in Yellow Elder Gardens. As 2014 draws near, Prime Minister Christie recently reflected on some of the achievements of the past year and what he's looking forward to. Christie says a surplus in recurrent expenditure is something government is still confident about in the near future. Christina McNeil has the story.
A surplus in government's recurrent revenue was one of the targets set by Prime Minister Christie in his budget communication for the 2013-2014 budget year. And it's something Christie says he hopes government will still achieve by 2015-2016.
I've set some strong targets of controlling expenditure, meaning costs. I've done it for a purpose. I've spoke about regulating all sorts of things in governments that I found weren't regulated, and being able to put my fingers on these sources of expenditure. And so we'll see. We'll see how close we come to the target.
That target, however, was dismissed as not achievable by financial analyst Anthony Ferguson earlier this year. Ferguson anticipated that, at best, the Bahamas will continue to run substantial deficits for the foreseeable future. Government borrowed an additional $100 million in the current fiscal year to cover financial commitments it said it incurred from the Ingram administration. Now, Christie says the government is taking an approach to control spending and bring in more revenue. He used the example of Barbados, whose government recently announced plans to lay off 3,000 civil servants next year. Christie says he's not concerned that will happen to the Bahamas, as government has a safety net in place. But he notes there is something he's concerned about.
What will worry me if we become intimidated, right, by the private sector, who should be working with us towards coming up with a realistic solution. I've seen signs that they are doing that now and providing options and alternatives, giving us an opportunity to have discussions, and that's the way it should be.
He adds that the Bahamas cannot risk being downgraded by credit rating agencies or the International Monetary Fund, as that may make it difficult to borrow money. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister reflected on some of the achievements of 2013.
Like the new development in Bimini, like the new development in Grand Bahama, these are matters that we worked hard on to persuade, like the doubling up of the investment at Albany that's going to take place. These things happened.
Christie says he hopes to bring about capital inflows as a result of investments that will mitigate the need to go and look for the type of revenue that value-added tax is causing the country to look for. VAT at a rate of 15% is expected to be introduced in July 2014. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Opposition members say they're not surprised Christie failed to table constitutional referendum bills before the end of the year as promised. F&M MP Loretta Butler Turner and F&M Senator Carl Bethel say they expect the referendum to be delayed again. In October, the Prime Minister said the bills would be introduced in the House of Assembly before the end of this year and passed in both Houses of Parliament by February 2014. On Wednesday, the House of Assembly adjourned until January. Read all about it in today's Nassau Guardian. Government is also catching heat from a prominent physician for its plan to seek outside help with the implementation of its national health insurance plan. Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez revealed this week that representatives from a Costa Rican accounting firm are expected in the country next month to begin on the costing for the proposed plan. However, leading cardiovascular surgeon Dr. Dwayne San says, what about local professionals?
We don't need foreign consultants. What we need is to work together and build this country together.
Dr. Sands says if the PLP government believes in Bahamians like its campaign slogan suggests, why bring in a foreign firm to help determine an estimate for its national health insurance plan?
The idea that somehow the talent does not reside in the Bahamas to outline, to plan, to create a Bahamian solution to a Bahamian problem is beyond me. Are we suggesting that the healthcare professionals don't exist? Are we saying that the actuarial skills don't exist?
Gomez said this week the firm was used by the first Christie administration. Sands says bringing in foreign consultants has become a recurring theme for the Christie administration, which brought in UK and South African consultants in the lead up to this year's failed gambling referendum, and is planning to bring in New Zealand experts to advise it on value-added tax. He believes this latest announcement is another stall tactic by the health minister, who, while on the campaign trail, promised NHI within the first year of a PLP government. That didn't happen.
I think this is yet again more stall and delay. And perhaps given the huge economic challenges, it is probably wise to delay. But I would have preferred that they engage local Bahamian professionals to discuss the strengthening of our healthcare environment.
The first Christie administration appointed a Blue Ribbon Commission to look at the feasibility of creating NHI. Gomez chaired that commission. Then in 2006, Parliament passed the National Health Insurance Act, but the plan was never implemented. Officials determined then that NHI would cost an estimated $235 million annually. However, experts project that implementing NHI would cost much more than that now.
If we just take the premise of a national health insurance plan to deliver all things to all people for less than what they're paying now, which is the PLP way, you're looking at $500 million a year easily.